History remembers kings and queens. It remembers wars and treaties. But what about the smaller groups? What about the movements that challenged the powerful? These groups often get lost in the footnotes of history books, but they matter. They remind us that change doesn't just happen, people make it happen. These forgotten movements are full of fascinating stories. They teach us about the struggles of ordinary people fighting for a better world. These stories can inspire us to fight for what we believe in. They remind us that even small acts of resistance can have a big impact. So, let's dust off the history books. Let's shine a light on some of these forgotten movements. Let's uncover their stories and understand their lasting impact. The early 1800s in Britain saw a technological revolution. This period marked the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, a time of great change and innovation. The landscape of Britain was transforming rapidly, with new inventions and machinery altering the way people lived and worked. The rise of factories and machines was at the heart of this transformation. These factories, equipped with advanced machinery, could produce goods at an unprecedented scale and speed. The efficiency and productivity of these new industrial processes were unparalleled. This new technology promised progress. It heralded an era of economic growth and prosperity, with the potential to improve the standard of living for many. Innovations in textile manufacturing, iron production and steam power were just a few examples of the groundbreaking advancements of the time, but it also brought hardship for many skilled workers. Enter the Luddites. Named after the mythical figure Ned Ludd, these workers became the face of resistance against the encroaching industrialization. They were primarily textile workers who had honed their craft over years, only to find their skills rendered obsolete by machines. This group of textile workers felt the brunt of these changes. The introduction of mechanized looms and spinning frames meant that tasks once performed by skilled artisans could now be done more quickly and cheaply by machines. This led to widespread job losses and a decline in wages for those who remained employed. They saw their jobs threatened by new machinery that could produce goods faster and cheaper. The economic pressures were immense, and many workers found themselves struggling to make ends meet. The sense of insecurity and fear of unemployment was pervasive. The Luddites were not against progress. They were not opposed to technological advancements per se. Instead, they were against the way these changes were being implemented, often at the expense of the workers' livelihoods and well-being. They were skilled artisans who took pride in their craft. Their expertise and dedication to quality were the hallmarks of their work. The machines, however, threatened to undermine the value of their skills and the quality of the products they created. They saw these machines as a threat to their livelihoods and their way of life. Their response? Direct action. The Luddites believed that by destroying the machines, they could halt the progress that was displacing them and draw attention to their plight. They began breaking into factories and destroying the machines they saw as responsible for their plight. These acts of sabotage were not random acts of violence, but rather targeted efforts to protect their jobs and communities. Their acts of sabotage were a desperate cry for help. The Luddites wanted to make a statement to show that the unchecked march of industrialization was causing real harm to real people. They hoped that their actions would force the authorities to take notice and address their concerns. They wanted the government to protect their jobs and ensure fair wages. The Luddites petitioned for regulations that would safeguard their employment and prevent the exploitation of workers by factory owners who prioritized profit over people. They were fighting against a system that seemed rigged against them. The Luddites' struggle was emblematic of the broader tensions of the Industrial Revolution, highlighting the human cost of rapid technological change and the need for a more equitable approach to progress. The Luddites are a fascinating example of how a movement can become shrouded in myth. The name itself, Luddite, is now synonymous with anyone opposed to technology. But who was Ludd? Was he a real person or a fictional character? The truth is murky. Some historians believe Ned Ludd was a real apprentice who smashed his frames in a fit of rage. Others believe he was a mythical figure like Robin Hood, adopted by the movement to give it a face and a name. Regardless of his actual existence, Ned Ludd became a powerful symbol. He represented the anger and frustration of a working class grappling with rapid technological change. The name Luddite became a rallying cry for those who felt left behind by progress. Section 4. Beyond Broken Looms, the Luddites' legacy in the digital age. The Luddites are often dismissed as backward-looking and anti-progress. They are frequently portrayed as technophobes who resisted the inevitable march of progress. But their concerns resonate even more today in our digital age. The rapid pace of technological change brings with it a host of new challenges and anxieties. They remind us that technological advancements are not always inherently good. While technology can bring about significant improvements in efficiency and convenience, it can also lead to unintended consequences. We must consider their impact on people's lives and livelihoods. The introduction of new technologies can disrupt entire industries, leading to job losses and economic instability. Today, we face similar anxieties about automation and artificial intelligence. These technologies promise to revolutionize the way we work, but they also pose significant risks. These technologies have the potential to displace millions of workers. The rise of automation and AI could lead to widespread unemployment and social unrest, if not managed properly. The Luddites serve as a cautionary tale. Their story is a reminder that we must approach technological change with caution and foresight. They remind us that we must manage technological change responsibly. Policymakers and business leaders must work together to ensure that the benefits of technology are distributed fairly. We need to ensure that the benefits of technology are shared by all. This means creating policies that promote inclusive growth and protect vulnerable populations. We must prioritize education, training and social safety nets to support workers who are displaced by automation. Investing in human capital is essential to building a resilient and adaptable workforce. The Luddite legacy reminds us to be critical of blind faith in progress and to prioritize human well-being in the face of technological change. By learning from the past, we can navigate the challenges of the digital age with wisdom and compassion. Section 5. Boredom is always counter-revolutionary, the Situationists, and the spectacle of everyday life. Fast forward to the 1950s and 1960s. This was a time of great social upheaval and transformation. The world was recovering from the devastation of World War II, and new cultural and political movements were emerging. The youth of this era were particularly restless, eager to break free from the constraints of the past and forge a new path forward. A new generation was questioning the status quo. They were disillusioned with the materialism and conformity that seemed to dominate society. They sought meaning and authenticity in a world that often felt shallow and superficial. Enter the Situationist International, a group of artists, writers and intellectuals who emerged in post-war France. Founded in 1957, the Situationists were a radical collective that sought to critique and transform the society they lived in. They drew inspiration from earlier avant-garde movements like Dada and Surrealism, but they were also deeply influenced by Marxist theory and the writings of Karl Marx. They were deeply critical of what they saw as the increasing alienation and commodification of modern life. In their view, capitalism had not only transformed the economy, but had also reshaped culture and everyday life in profound ways. The Situationists believed that capitalism had created a society of the spectacle. This concept, developed by situationist theorist Guy Debord, described a world in which social relationships were mediated by images and representations. In the society of the spectacle, people were no longer active participants in their own lives, but passive spectators, consuming images and experiences that were manufactured for them. They argued that people were becoming passive consumers, bombarded with advertising and meaningless entertainment. Television, billboards and magazines all contributed to this spectacle, creating a world in which appearance was more important than reality. This spectacle, they argued, numbed people to the true nature of their lives and prevented them from experiencing authentic experiences. Instead of living fully and freely, people were trapped in a cycle of consumption and distraction. Their goal was to deturn or disrupt this spectacle. Detournement, a key tactic of the Situationists, involved taking elements of mainstream culture and subverting them to reveal their true nature. This could involve altering advertisements, creating provocative art, or staging public interventions. They wanted to wake people up from their consumerist slumber and inspire them to reclaim their lives. By challenging the spectacle, the Situationists hoped to create a more authentic and liberated society. They believed in the power of creativity, play, and direct action to challenge the dominant order. For the Situationists, revolution was not just a political act, but a cultural and existential one. They sought to transform not only the structures of society, but also the way people experienced and understood their own lives. Section 6. Guy Debord, graffiti guru and critic of capitalism. At the heart of the Situationist International was Guy Debord, a charismatic and enigmatic figure. Debord was a filmmaker, writer and provocateur. He was a sharp critic of capitalism and its effects on modern life. Debord's most famous work, The Society of the Spectacle, became a kind of Bible for the movement. In it, he argues that capitalism thrives by turning everything into a commodity, even our relationships and experiences. He believed this spectacle alienated people from themselves and from each other. Debord advocated for a revolt of everyday life. He believed that people could resist the spectacle through small acts of subversion and by creating situations that fostered genuine human connection. He encouraged people to break free from the routines of consumerism and rediscover the joy of play and creative expression.